Echo, this is a response to the call by, our brothers over there in the continent and brothers and sisters from the continent to come home for the black diaspora, the African Americans or African Caribbeans. As a matter of fact, African Americans are actually everyone who lives on the American continent who are of African descent. But the African United States population and the African Caribbean population, which is what we really call the African diaspora here in the West and also Canada. Now, the Latin Americans are also included as well, but I haven't seen much people referring to them. But because of the language differences, I think basically we have to make a special effort to reach out to the Hispanics, who are called African Hispanics. So, because they've been left out, and there are a lot of them. Now, my issue is that we, Echo, as you said, you're doing a great job. I want to say you've been, helping us to galvanize the spirits to come back home to Africa. Me, myself, I'm coming home, as I said, regardless. And as like many of us, I'm working towards it. But, it's like a very, lackluster invitation. There's no real official drive to get us. The only interest we see is that they're saying, come home, come invest, bring your money. I think other guys have stressed this point before. Come home, bring your hard-earned slave dollars. That's basically what it is, your slave dollars, because you've slaved in America over 500, 400 years, and finally there's an outreach. And it's not supposed to be like that. There shouldn't be any, those type of conditions being put on people to come home. But also, you need to give, as I said, tangibles. Now, just get straight to the point, Echo. Thanks to Ghana, thanks to your effort, the Ghanaians are champions from Ghana. They're champions for bringing people back home. And they should have like a special place, in the Pan-African community. Ghana is a special place. And keep going with Mr. President Akufo-Addo. And you guys are doing a great job. Now, we love to hear what you're saying, and we're very happy. The diaspora is very happy to hear that, you're reaching out. But what about the governments? Even when the governments do participate, they tend to just sponsor the events and it's sponsored, but it's not a wholesome invitation. It's like, okay, you guys are free to come home. This is your country. This is your continent. Whether you're from East, West, North, South, West Africa, this is your continent. This is your home. You've been taken away. You've lost your birthright. Yes. So you're in control, and you're recognizing that we've lost our birthright, which was forcibly taken away from us, and you're having that position right now to give it back to us. You're giving these great speeches about the African diaspora and how we can build Africa, but what about bringing us home legally? We need to have an invitation to come home, like with our citizenship restored, because as I said, if you're really serious about welcoming the black African diaspora, transatlantic slave, people from the Mafa experience, especially them, which they're the majority, please, you need to extend an official I don't care, unapologetically, I don't care who it offends invitation to the African people in the diaspora, to tell them you have citizenship in Senegal, Nigeria, Ghana, or just a Pan-African passport that says you are a child of Africa. We're finally coming to get you to be established in your home if you want, because everybody has their own freedom of choice. But once you give them that, then they'll feel like they're coming home and not just coming home to squat. As I said, there's a term called squatters. As you guys know, squatter camps are all over Africa, squatters communities. We do not want to come home and be a squatter community. where anyone in public office can just assume that let's move the black diasporans to another area because some white developers want to use their land, okay, and be used like a pawn of these white corporations, as Julius Malema would say, white capital, okay? That is what these African leaders are doing. Because if they were serious about bringing their brothers and sisters who've been, wronged with slavery, we were expecting, as many of you will hear, there's a lot of pain. Hundreds of days have gone by, thousands of days have gone by, and not one outreach program from the African continent to say, bring our people home and let's rescue the survivors who are their children and give them opportunities in in Africa, and take them out of America. You have not done that. So it seems like a complaint. It is. It is. So we are Pan-Africanists. We believe in reaching out, but it seems like we have been the one reaching out to you. We are the survivors of this crime, and you are the one who's got your systems almost intact. We are the ones who've been displaced, and you want the displaced victims to be reaching out to you? No. They do it, but it's morally wrong. It's you, the motherland. You are the mothership. And you had also some hand in it happening. You turned a blind eye. It went on for hundreds of years. It wasn't just 2 days that you could not control. It was hundreds of years that you allowed white people to make a business out of our labor. And now we're trying to come home, and the ones who do confront us are saying, oh, conditions of visas and passports and this, as if we're just another white investor. So where is that brother? Who is the brother that you're calling? Who are the sisters that you're calling to come home? Who are they? Is it the white sisters that you call? Or is it the black sisters? Or is it the black brothers? Or is it the white brother? Who are you calling to come home? Okay? Because if you're calling us to come home and you're treating us just like them, then what's the sense? What's the sense? We need you as the official governments of all these entities, ECOWAS, SADC, and the Eastern African states. We need all of you to put a hand from each 5 region. If you recognize us as the 6th region of Africa, what do you want us to do? Come sit there and talk and talk and talk and talk in a Pan-African Parliament, as you guys have been doing, just talking, and no action? Africans are great orators. We inherited that from you guys. We are very well spoken. We are very well at speaking to any problems, but we are very, 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 very slow at really implementing any change. So we're asking you guys in control to do something about it. You're talking about extending welcome to your brothers who've been wronged, your sisters who've been wronged. It's going on to 4 generations. How many more generations should they wait for you to find an excuse to say, oh, okay, now they're not Africans? Don't wait. This is supposed to have happened like at least 200 years ago. Okay? Little Haiti freed itself from these tyrants and was able to send help to many foreign countries to help fight. And our brothers and sisters on the continent, we haven't heard from you. You've been hearing from us. You've been hearing from us, and we've made you proud. We've been overseas fighting to keep the African flag and the torch, in spite of our pain and the history that we've had. And you over there, you've had extra ample time to gather up your information, investigate what happened, and start establishing links, permanent links for people to come home if they now feel like. It's not a matter of bringing them home to invest and build up the villages, and from those same villages that we were taken as slaves, while the people locally are still sitting there. And they don't look at Jimmy. Look at Jimmy Market in Sierra Leone. Look at the mess Jimmy Market is in Sierra Leone. And now they're asking us to come over. We have to go back with the Gula Geechees from South Carolina and the Maroons from Jamaica to go over back and fix that. While the locals, the government is not even looking at it. So who is in control? Who is in control of our countries in Africa? So these guys are masquerading around saying that they're the presidents and they're the this and they're the that. Why don't you do something right? You don't have to worry about the African diaspora population. The African diaspora population is not more than 400 million, okay? Africa has 31 million square kilometers of land. Africa has so much land, the whole world, if 8 billion people can fit into Africa. So leave that excuse about where we're going to put them. There's too much excess space. The Congo is so big and uncontrollable. You have space in the Sahel region, Mauritania, where you put in Arabs who were the ones who enslaved us and are still enslaving us in Mauritania as of today, since up to today. Yes, you have Madagascar. It's so vast. All you have to do is ask any African diaspora who wants to go to those regions. I think the people from India would like to come back home. The cities would like to come back home as well. Put them in Madagascar. Make space in Madagascar, a big state for them in Madagascar if they want to come back home. Because since that's more similar, because they were taken from East Africa, the cities of India, from Gujarat province, and the Punjabi and Andaman Islands. You need to investigate. That's what you're supposed to be doing. The diasporic office of the Nigerian government and the Sierra Leone and the Liberian and the Ghana and even Tanzania and Kenya, because we had slave trade in Kenya at Fort George. Okay, we had what's his name, Tipu Tip, who had over 10,000 slaves according to history, being stolen and taken to East to India as mercenaries and as forced conscripts, and to serve in Saudi Arabia as eunuchs and stuff like that. Come on, man. It's we have the Arabs who depopulated North Africa. Over 100 million Africans were trading across the Sahara Desert into the Oman area and the Yemen area and also Saudi Arabia. Come on. We have Palestine. We have all these people who are clamoring to come back home, but they're being abused and stepped on. And if Africa does not have a policy to help their families overseas, who are you? Look at little Israel. Little Israel, who's taken away a little part of Africa and has turned it into a model state of protecting its citizens, its white citizens, from anywhere around the world. And a big, giant elephant in the room is Africa. It's always us sitting in the room. We have so much power, and you governments are occupying space. I don't know what you're doing. China has done a great job of making its country great by bringing its diaspora home. The Chinese diaspora was not even more than 30 million people. The African diaspora is over 400 million. So you guys are just wasting time, okay? So you guys need to start moving up, stepping up the ball, and you need to do more. You need to do one thing that makes things right. You give people legality. If you're coming home, you're giving up the comforts of the West. You're giving up the benefits and rights that you have in the West to come back to start over from zero in Africa. So we need some support. And the easiest transition is to recognize our citizenship, give us back our citizenships. Any Africans who want to come home, you're going to have to give them a passport. And you're going to have to give them documents to say they cannot be deported, because no one wants to come and be a squatter or be a victim of the local people who think you're coming in to exploit them. Okay? So you need to do that. The only way we can feel that we're going home is if you give us back our birthright. And millions of us want to do it. And that's the only way we're going to build Africa. That's the only way Africa is going to be built, with impetus and strength behind it. It's going to be built and make the world shocked, and Africans worldwide, black people worldwide, those who chose not to return and those who choose to return are going to be very proud of what Africa is when we finally, make that decision and give them back their citizenship. We're talking citizenship. When you enslaved us and took us out of Africa, You took our citizenship with us. We could not speak our language. You took our language, so our parents could not inherit our African traditions. We have pieces of it only. And the little pieces of it is what has made us clinch to Africa. Look at the Jamaicans. Look at the Caribbean. Look how pro-African they have been. And instead of you taking that and working with it, you just sat there and talk about, oh brother, come home. Oh my brother, these are our brothers. Those are our brothers. It's words. You got to put it on paper that these are your brothers. Okay? We are your only friends outside of Africa. As they said, we normally say that in Black America, Africa has no friends except the Africans outside of Africa. So it's either you take your friends and you work with them, or either you're still going to be working with your enemies, because you have the enemies right there inside, brainwashing our people and trying to stop us from returning home. Okay? You've got white people, you've got Europeans, you've got Asians who think it's very accommodated for them to show up and get big chunks of Africa and bring their money, and the governments are backing them to come to Africa. Our governments will never back us to go to Africa because most of us are from independent black nations. We're supposed to be a part of Africa. Why did you treat Haiti so bad? Haiti wanted to be a member of the African Union and you did not take Haiti. That Mr. Faki, that guy from Mali who fired our African sister, Dr. Chikombori, Arikana, she is the voice of Africa. And what have you done? You haven't rallied against her. Rallied for her. You didn't back her up. Look what even Museveni said about Libya. Look how you make them take Libya. You should have gotten together and stopped those Westerners from destroying Libya. You should have backed Gaddafi. That was the opportunity for Africa to retake African land of Libya. And now you have Western allies talking about what they're going to do with Libya in the Berlin conference, when it's you supposed to be talking about it. How you have people outside your house talking about what they're going to do in your house. Is that right? And the citizens who want to come back and make a change, you're contemplating, oh, should they come as investors or should they come? Oh, we have to change the laws. Well, you have to change the laws. You have to change the immigration policies to accommodate the African diaspora. It's the only way. You have to do it. There's no other way. And you have to change it because that's a special group of people who you need. Okay? You need them. You've never stopped needing them. They were stolen, and that's why Africa is in a shambles. Look at the towns where they took us from. Go to the villages and see what garbage dumps they are. Since slavery, they remain the same. And now you're asking these same ex-slave children to come back home and rebuild them? When we were part of the damage, we were part of the commodity that was stolen, and you guys know the history. You need to start teaching it in schools, and you need to start telling your African children on the continent that those people over there were forcibly taken away, and that's what destroyed our African empires. Yes, we were the cause of the destruction of our empires because we were the missing link. Now what you need is to re-link, reattach the part that was taken away to make it whole again. Okay? So you have to do that in honor of our ancestors who died before us, in honor of the many injustices that were caused upon us by these white Europeans who are now running amok in our continent. And while you're there under your watch, all that is happening. They come into Congo, they fly out, they take what they want, they come back and tell you what to do. And then you want to tell us that we can't come to Africa. So whose side are you African leaders on? You are your own worst enemies. That's why, look at Nigeria. Sitting on the fence for everything, sits on the fence because they've got someone who is not really pro-African. They're very pro-Arab, pro-Islamist, pro-Muslim, who don't really see the interest of Africa at their, it's not interested for them. What's interested is their jihad, to spread Arab influence all over Africa and make us Arab. The whites try to make us European. Now the Arabs trying to make us European. Now the Chinese are here now taking their turn to make us Asians too. What are we? the foot rug of the world. Next, the Martians will come and there will be Martians too. How many people have to be stepping on Africans for you Africans to get some pride and realize that you're just a footmat of the world and we are ashamed of our leaders in Africa? We want to come home and make a change in whatever bit a little way that we can. There are many Africans overseas who can make big changes, but they want assurance. They want tangibles. So this is a plea from one of your deported son from Africa, from one of your deported, exiled, enslaved, because when you did that to my fourth grandparents, they could not inherit anything to me in Africa. Okay? Because you guys, what you did, they kept our lands, they kept our families, they destroyed our lands, they killed our families, and they exiled us. Okay? And now we're here, struggling in America, whether we have 10 degrees or 1 degree or no degree or $1 million or 2 cents. You want us to come back and build up what you guys helped destroy. And now you're allowing it to continue by allowing this perpetual rape and pillaging of our motherland, Africa. So Echo, brother, you're doing a great job to be on the continent, and you're inspiring a lot. There's Search for Uhuru, there's Echo, there's Black Sid. She's doing a great job. That woman is losing her voice because the Gambian government, they need to come straight and open up citizenship to all Africans who want to come home. We're Africans first. Tribes secondary. We're Africans. And you recognize that we're African because we're black people. We're Bantu people. My DNA tells me I am 87% still African. I am 55% Nigerian and West African, 14% Ghana and Sierra Leone. So you need to stop dragging your feet, please. You know? So this is my plea to our African leaders. If you want us to come home and propel Africa into the future, you need to do what the Chinese have done. Bring your diaspora home. Yes? Bring them home. How are you going to bring them home is not by telling them, welcome home, brothers, come home, welcome home. No, you have to back it up with documents. Give them a passport at any embassy of your choice around the world that Africa has, spending all African money around the world, having these luxurious embassies. Any black person should be able to walk in, you interview him and see what his points are, and you give him his documents straight home. Whether he's a citizen of the UK, the USA, or the Caribbean, or wherever, that's irrelevant. The minute he steps in your embassy, he's an African, and you're supposed to vet him to go back home. Whatever benefits he got as a slave working over here, as being a citizen of one of those superpowers, it could be to your benefit as well. Because now he'll be investing from those, divest from those first world, and he will be investing all that into our world. Okay? We talk about how much trillions of dollars the black community have as the ninth power in the world with more than $1.7 trillion or 1.3 trillion. What good is it doing to Africa? It's in the hands of Africans, and what good is it doing? It's building up the castle of our enemy. We live in the castles of our enemies, and we're building it up for them to attack you. Does that make sense? And you're allowing it to happen. Okay? So we need you to open up your eyes and put people in charge who care about Africans, who love Africans, and who love Africa first, not Islam or Christianity first, because those were imposed upon us. And the people who imposed them are right there at your door, still kicking it down to come in and just finish you off. Okay? There you have the Mali people. There you have the jihadists in Mali, right at your door. And who's in the African Union? Mr. Faki. Now let's see if Ramaphosa takes over the African Union now. Let's see what's he going to do. And he's from the ANC. So you know what's going to happen right there. It's going to be another same story all over again. The only person that will change anything in the African Union will be Julius Malema or Dr. Arikada or even Mr. Kagame. Okay? Mr. Kofu-Addo, you're very eloquent. I respect you. But I think you're sometimes a little bit scared to push the button. Okay? You're trying to be very diplomatic and you're very brave. But you need to get others on board with you, not just you. Magufuli from Tanzania, I love him. He's like my daddy. I just love this man. But Magufuli, you're being too self-centered. Just Tanzania. You're too self-centered. I haven't heard you mention anything about the African diaspora. You're building Tanzania up and we're proud of you for doing that. But you remember Tanzania have slavery. Tanzania also took part. Tipo Tep was from Zanzibar. Read about Tipo Tep and you have Stone Town and you've got Zanzibar to prove it. And you've got Fort George to prove it and many others to prove it. So you kept very quiet because even though you're Catholic, you're a Christian, you have a very strong Muslim influence and you try not to raffle their feathers. You have to raffle it. Because if you don't, you're just selling out our people again. Yes? So Magufuli, if you hear this, we're very proud of you. I love you to death and I always never criticize you. But you need to look this side. Look to the west too. Don't just sit there in silence. We love that you only speak Swahili, and we'd love to come home and learn Swahili and make it a lingua franca of Africa, yes. But you've got to give it, we can't even own land in Tanzania. We love Tanzania. It's supposed to be a Pan-African country, but we can't even come and own land. We're Africans. We can't even own land. What is that? There's an African saying that says a man is no man until he owns land. So we're nobody. We're coming there just to be like visitors. We don't want to come to Africa and be visitors that we can be deported like we're foreign. We're not foreigners. We're Africans. That's our land. So that's why millions and millions of African Americans hate to even hear we talk about Africa, because they're so hurt that they do not conceive going to Africa unless you come straight up and says tangibles like you're an African, here's your passport, permanent resident. But we're not even permanent resident, because as a permanent resident, you're still a foreigner. We're not a foreigner. We're returning residents. That's what you should call it. Returning citizens or returning residents. So once you get back, you're supposed to be able to apply for a passport, or at least buy land. Even if you tell us, wait 2 or 3 years. Most of us are in our 40s and 50s and 60s. You think we're going to go back and wait another 10 and 17 years to be a citizen of our African land? Have you thought about that? How are we going to enjoy that? You think we want to be grandfathers over and over again in America and in Africa before we start feeling any accomplishment or coming back home? We need to, wise up. We will come back home. Not all of us. But you need to open up the pathway that no one should have an excuse not to go home. Okay? That's what we need you to do. Put out pathways that gives none of us an excuse not to return and build Africa. We're coming, but you're the one who's stopping us from coming. Understand that. You are the one who's stopping us from coming. It's not the white man, it's you. Because you know what you're doing? You're obeying the white man's colonial laws that's affecting the return of your children. Okay? Protect your children. Don't affect their return. Okay? So this is logic and this is conscious. Be woke. Stop working for the white man. Now work for the African. Okay? Stop being a footstool to the Europeans. They're just laughing everywhere we go. We're at the bottom of the chain. We're at the bottom of the line. We're at the back of the line. We're at the bottom of the bucket. We're everywhere. We get killed all over the world just because we look like you. Okay? Just because we look like you, we get killed. We don't get a job because we look like you. We don't get promotions because we look like you. Or we speak like you. Or we have a connection to you. We can't live in certain places because we look like you. And what are you doing? So what are we supposed to do? Get angry at Africa and come and invade it and build a state for ourselves? Trust me, people have been thinking of those things. But don't turn your family against you. We're all you've got. Trust me, we're all you've got. And you will not progress until you change that. Stop expecting the Asians to come and build up Africa. We can come and build Africa. We don't need no Asians nor no Europeans. They've destroyed it. And they're bringing trinkets now to say they want to come and rebuild. Okay? That's why we have all these white passes running around Africa, beating up kids, slapping people in the airport, and getting drunk and raping African women, and Chinese coming over and having babies and just breeding our babies and girls like they're animals. And you're up there with $1 million homes, with your portfolio as the president, vice president, and you sit there and give state of address and all that. No, we're not adding to Africa's problem. We're going to come to be one of the solution to Africa's problems. Yes. So we're watching you from the West. We have everything in the West. We know exactly what you're doing. We know what you are. So don't try to tell us we don't know what's going on in Africa because we haven't lived there. So that's the part that we need to accomplish, but you're the one who's blocking us from it. Once we come home, in my personal view, I'm coming home for you to teach me to be African again. I'm not coming home to teach you how to be American. I'm coming home for you to teach me how to be African, and that's the value we want you guys to preserve, because that's all we've got. We're Africans, and we need to rediscover those values, because everybody's stepping all over us because they realize that we're just whores. We sell ourselves to anybody who can pay. That's ridiculous. How can you sell yourself when you've got all the resources of the world? The world needs you. We don't need them. Okay? So I hope this message gets out there, and I hope that you guys understand where I'm coming from. Okay? This is something that you have to be addressing. The issue here is, yes, we accept your welcome, but we cannot wholly accept your welcome until you really give us documents to say, come home. Put restrictions on us. Tell us, come 4 or 5 times before you get your third. On your 5th, you get your citizenship. Give us certain times of visit if you want to go the white way of doing things. We are the brothers that were taken away, and we're longing to come home. Our grandfathers long to come home. My great-grandfather longed to return to West Africa in 1979. That's how I got this idea of Pan-Africanism, because my great-grandfather was begging to come home, and he was about to pick up 75 members of his whole family and head back, but he couldn't afford it. They used to start laughing at him, and why he wanted to go back to Africa. But I'm going to fulfill it and return home. My grandfather, yes, and he was from Sierra Leone. So I want you guys to listen to us. I'm not here to complain. It's just observations and lack of actions from you guys. We are the one that need to come home and make the change that Africa needs. Africa needs to step forward. Alright?